Okay, let's start with one of the most popular categories, your classic 27-inch 1440p gaming monitor with 144Hz or more. Two of my top picks in this category are this monitor by AMZ Fast and this one by KTC. These two are very similar, I actually suspect they're using the same panel, and both are insane value for money. These are using IPS panels with great colors and a contrast ratio close to 1400:1. The AMZ runs at 200Hz and the KTC at 210Hz. But these surely aren't the fastest monitors you can get. Both show some mild smearing in dark areas, but the response times are still decent. And both currently can be had around the $150 mark, which is pretty crazy for what they offer. If you want slightly faster response times, I'd go with either the Gigabyte GS27QA or the Asus XG27ACS. These two are very similar in a lot of areas. Both offer very fast response times at the maximum refresh rate. Both also clock at 180Hz and have a very comparable contrast ratio and maximum brightness. But the Asus is slightly more refined. It has a single overdrive mode that can be used for all refresh rates, and it also wins for color accuracy. But it's also a few dollars more expensive usually. I have international links for all the monitors in the video description, by the way, if you want to compare prices in your region or pick one up. If your main focus is content consumption, especially HDR movies and shows, this monitor by AOC is my #1 recommendation for budget buyers. It's using a VA panel with a mini LED backlight, and despite the relatively low zone count of 336, it's a very capable HDR monitor for the price, and it far outperforms your classic edge-lit IPS or VA monitor. It's also worth mentioning that there's now a G40, which is kind of the predecessor of the G3. It bumps the zone count to 1152, but it ditches the height adjustable stand for a tilt-only stand. I haven't tested this monitor personally, but according to the testing done by Monitors Unbox, it has less blooming and slightly faster response times than the G3, so I figured it's worth mentioning as an alternative. Good 1440p monitors can be had for around $150 now, so 1080p is in a bit of a tough spot. These budget 1080p monitors only really make sense if you can get them in the sub $100 range. And my favorite monitor in this price range still is the KTC H24T09P. It has a 165Hz IPS panel, fast response times and good colors. It's a great little monitor for the price. But keep in mind that spending about $50 more can get you a 27-inch 1440p monitor. Now that prices for OLED monitors have come down to roughly $400, I gotta say I don't see much reason anymore to buy one of these premium LCD gaming monitors. Doesn't really make much sense to get a 240Hz plus IPS monitor for like $250, $300 when $400 gets you a 240Hz QD OLED monitor. And my top pick usually is this one by AOC, but at the time of making this video it's $450 US, which makes these two monitors the better deal actually. All of these are using the same 240Hz QD OLED panel, and the monitors that use this panel are pretty similar anyway, so don't think spending roughly $50 more is worth it unless you really like the design. Now, it's probably also worth mentioning that there is now a 280Hz version of this QD OLED panel, and I've seen this monitor from MSI on sale for just $400, which makes it an even better deal than the 240Hz versions. This also makes the majority of the 360Hz QD OLEDs seem like a bad deal. Doesn't really make much sense to spend roughly $150 more for this tiny refresh rate bump. In some regions though, this can be different. In Germany, for example, the Philips 360Hz QD OLED is just a few euros more expensive currently, so you might as well get the 360Hz version. Now, 240Hz WOLED is an option too, but the monitors with this panel typically are a bit more expensive than the QD OLEDs, so these wouldn't be my first choice. You might find a good deal for the KTC or LG that use the WOLED panel, but I wouldn't spend much more than $400 US. QD OLED really offers better value for money currently, unless of course you can't stand how QD OLEDs look when ambient light hits the screen. Now, while QD OLED currently wins when it comes to value for money, for the time being Tandem OLED is the superior tech. And at $550 US, the LG model with the new 280Hz Tandem OLED panel is reasonably priced for what it offers. It's more expensive than the QD OLED alternative, yes, but it also reaches a higher full screen brightness of roughly 330 nits, and it even has a larger color gamut volume, meaning the colors pop even more than on QD OLED. And unlike with QD OLED, blacks don't turn grayish magenta when light hits the screen. And this panel is also available with a glossy finish. ASUS was first to unveil their monitor with the glossy version of that panel, but I don't think it's for sale anywhere just yet. But I have it linked down below as well. When it comes to the super high refresh rate monitors, I think the 500Hz QD OLED models make the most sense from a value for money POV. It's probably a bit of a stretch to call a $650 monitor good value for money, but this MSI model is actually well priced compared to the other high refresh rate options. It's a good chunk more expensive than the 280Hz QD OLEDs, so you better make use of those additional hertz, but it also gets about 50 nits brighter full screen, which is nice. So yeah, these are my picks for the best value monitors this year. Everything's linked down below. Thanks for watching, bis zum nächsten Video.